This is Reg F. and Howard Raw, Siren Buddha Medicine. I hope you can hear me really well. And I just had some notes that I have to share. So I'm just going to talk. Hi, Jerry. Can you hear me? Pretty good. Great. Thank you. Some things have been bothering me, about what's going on. This is going to be a talk about deferment. So what do I have to say about deferment? I notice there's a lot of good people putting in work, but they still end up on the crap end of the stick, So a lot of times they say it's law of attraction, that it's specifically what the person concentrated on or did or put the energy into that caused them to have whatever outcome they have in their life. But then think about all the Christians and all the so-called good people that try to follow by the book. They're doing many of the things that they're supposed to be doing, but things are still not right. So how do you explain that? It goes into a conversation I used to hear a lot when I was little. It's like, if there was a God, why would he let all these bad things happen to good people? It was always the question, why me? Now, back to deferment. When you're in the consciousness community, for a while, some of us can measure a flux in the field. Like you can literally measure the energy around you, not just in the space around you right here, it's as above, so below. So we can actually measure the amount of volume, for lack of a better word, in the astral realm. For instance, 5 years ago, there were a few of us that could feel, literally feel, measure with our spirit the number of voices or spirits that were in a certain level or portion of the astral realm. Within the last 2 years, the consciousness community has grown. I don't know what you call indigos having babies, and we got rainbows, and we got all kinds of different cosmic babies that we have named as a way to describe different levels or different times of awakening. So you could feel that, the difference between 5 years ago and now. You could feel that. Some of us can feel that. So that got me to looking at these things I'm talking about, concentrating on the flux in the field of consciousness that has changed, and people who are empathetic or psychic or awakened people, they can feel this, okay? Now, this energy is being siphoned by way of using knowledge, symbols, chakras, astrology, language, and belief systems. This is how the deferment of our energy is happening. You have all these people using these different venues of thought, and it's being deferred. And I would like to show you how, to the best of my ability. It just wouldn't leave me alone, to the point where now I have to share it with you. There's a saying that I don't even remember his name, although he's extremely popular. Do what thy wilt. You know, a lot of people in the occult community that study certain knowledges off the top of my head. I can't remember what his name is, but those of us who are conscious know what I mean. It's like, the dirty thing you don't say for a lot of people in the conscious community, do what thy will. But we have people that are still a part of the religious communities, the sociological programming, the sociology programming that tells us what to do. We try very hard to follow certain guidelines, to be caring, empathetic, law-abiding citizens, contributing in the ways and the venues that they set out for us to do so. Charities, church, schools, the educational stuff. But here is this saying, do what thy wilt. In the conscious community, which can't be measured. Now, there's some of us that are not doing things conducive to helping other people. There's people that are helping people that are not helping people, and they're helping themselves. And they're using these slogans and sayings as a means to escape responsibility. What they do, see, the difference between those in the conscious community that are learning all these different things in order to help other people, in order to identify, in order to heal, in order to save their sanity, to be able to have clarity or confirmation that certain things are going on. And that's kind of like what I'm doing now, how I came into this information, is through research to give myself peace of mind. Because these other forces, I'm not even going to call them higher forces. They're just deferring energy. They have knowledge to defer energy. These other forces, they're duping us, and we're falling for the illusion. What they teach with that do what thy will is that they're more important and they're more valuable than any other human being next to them, than us that are learning these things and, doing what we can every day just to get along, to survive, to keep our sanity, to keep our families together, to try to improve what we can in the communities, and a lot of us without resources, So they want us to feel that they are better than us. And the way that I'm saying these they are the people that are running these other systems and venues of thought. Okay? Like the Vatican, and like the Catholic Church, or like politicians, people of power who look down on people without and say it's because you didn't put in the work. It's not my fault. But behind all that is deferment. What they want us to do is they prey upon us. And they want us to pay attention to them, to pay attention and buy into the lie that they are righteous, that they know best, that they have our best interest in mind. None of that is really true. Although some of them may think so, but if your system is built on a lie, I don't care how much you think that you're there to help, the truth is you don't know what you're doing because you're using a corrupt system. None of this stuff that they're using, my nose is so itchy. None of these things that they're using belongs to them. And the reason why I'm saying it doesn't belong to them is because they're not plugged into the planet. Their heart is not in it. They don't have the right mentality or intent. So the planet is not letting them in. So they go through these other avenues using deferment, using the occult systems, by using the language and the symbols, the chakra system, the astrology, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're all attached to names that trigger things within the mind that are attached to the planetary systems. That part of our minds that they said is sleeping, it isn't really sleeping. We're just not, most of us are not able to tap into it because they're deferring it. They've tapped into it, into our unconscious mind, and are able to robot us and puppet us by using these other systems, by using these thoughts that you're looking at somebody and they're your teacher, they're your counselor, your priest. I don't know, there's somebody important and your life is kind of fuzzy and you go to them for advice, for help, for nurturing. And you're not going to get that because spiritually the core is corrupt in most cases. Not in all cases, but in most cases. So we go there with the conflict of good and bad and right or wrong. I have sinned. I have desires. I have wants and needs. And A, B, C, D, E, F, G has told me that I am not supposed to feel that way because that's the indoctrination and the programming. School told me no. Church told me no. My parents told me no, and they were indoctrinated by the same systems. Society told me no. The politicians that run society have a list of A, B, and C, and they said yay or nay. And so this is the kind of stuff that we listen to be cohesive with one another. But notice how in this big giant melting pot that fits into the rest of the world, we're not cohesive. We're not well. We're not okay. We're not really loving each other because we're confused and we don't know how to love ourselves because they didn't teach us. It's profitable for them, for us to buy into the thought that they know best and that we're sick, that we're right or wrong, that we're good or bad, but always underneath the standards that this illusion that they've set out for us. And so how do they steal? It's the theft of ancient knowledge. Many different places, but one in particular is Kemet. We have the triple black goddess, the Black Madonna, who's depicted in worldwide as different figures. You have Shati and you have Asar and you have, well, you know what? It just goes and each deity gets a breakdown and morphs into another character as you move through cultures worldwide, okay? And our original one that we had, it's no different. And so there are multiple civilizations built on the knowledge of the female principle and the male principle united, not just the male principle. So there's been theft of our ancient knowledge. And this consciousness field can be measured. They don't have it because they're not plugged into the mothership. They're not plugged into her. They're not empathizing with the people or the planet itself. It's rape and pillage. It's robbery. It's theft. It's going back to its true nature from where they got it from and no longer really able to disguise itself anymore, I don't care how pretty something looks. If it's ugly, you won't want to spend much time with it. Eventually, if you really look, you're going to see what it really is. If you want to. So we have to really want to. I have to want to see this, and it's so ugly. So what they do with the occult system is they consort with the counterproductive traits of the forces. So these are ancient deities and forces that they have powers and they can be steered like a steering wheel through using certain intents and rituals and these symbols and words and through the planetary alignment. When certain things happen, the planet and all flesh, all things with water, all things that breathe air, they're going to respond. Like when we have a full moon and the current comes in. Like when they say there's certain better times to plant. Like when we have a retrograde and you feel like your life's in shambles. Things respond. Okay, so and so, you know, and that's what they call dark magic. Dark magic, and this programming is also used through the television media, indoctrination. You know, now each of these systems has another, like, help me. Take religion, right? They have the social media, they have the mega preachers, they have all the different movies that are about Christ or about Muslims or about Buddha or about, you know, they have different things that steer your attention that we buy into. I've seen them all, I've watched them all, I was into them all as I was coming up, just trying to find that right thing that fit me spiritually. And they all had something in them that I empathized with. Good day, everybody. I see I have a lot more people with me. I really appreciate you being here. I'm just trying to get through this because it's a little complicated. And we all know I'm a little bit unorganized. Okay, so we're going to church. We're thinking the thoughts. We're saying the prayers. We're on our knees. We're doing the bake sales, and we're doing the knocking on doors and dropping off pamphlets and doing stuff at the school. You know, each one of these systems has a way that they get you to focus your energy and they can steer from it. And all these places are on ley lines. And all these places have another system that pulls from the energy that we put into it. Okay? And that's how the ship is steering. That's just one thing. It's a Beautiful Life is another movie that had spiritual stuff to it, attached to Christmas. I used to love that movie. But it triggers, it's like an anchor. It's going to pull up all this other stuff. And like when we're being spiritual, like we look for that. Being moral, we're looking for that. And this is feeding on our need to look for it, our desire to want to have a way to plug in, to have a way to be secure, to be balanced. So we're feeding it our prayers. Okay, so then we go to, we're feeding it our paychecks. We pay tithes. You go to the doctors. That's a whole nother system, the healthcare system. They tell you body mass index. They tell you the Food and Drug Administration, what your portion should be, what the proper things to eat are. And a lot of that stuff, our teeth are not even made to eat meat, but they're still telling us that we're meat eaters and that we need to have a certain amount of meat. They're not even telling us that certain people's bodies have different constitutions and stuff. You know, some of us are able to process cheese. Some of us shouldn't have any cheese. And that's a DNA thing that we're discovering. But we bought their moral content because society said that what they had to say was relevant. And so we look up to them as they look down on us, little sheeples, believing everything that they say. And we eat what they tell us to eat, and we deem it safe because the Food and Drug Administration said that it is. The label said non-GMO. And so we give them our money and our time. We pay attention to them. We buy in, and they're getting energy from this. They're siphoning energy from the healthcare system as well. You know, so we got pharmaceutical companies. We have places that grow drugs, not for them to be in their pure state, but for them to break them down, put chemicals in them, and feed it back to us through the pharmaceutical industry. You got the Food and Drug Administration telling us what to eat, but this is causing issues leading us right into the doctor's office and the pharmaceutical companies, because we paid attention and bought into what they said and didn't use our own mind. We didn't have our own intent. We didn't do our own research. We're too busy doing that 9 to 5, rushing around and trying to fit in desperately because we don't want to be sanctioned. It's easier if somebody else tells me what to do and I just fit in, because that's society. Society needs that. It's productive. It's conducive to productivity. But what kind of productivity are we talking about? Are we talking about spiritual welfare? Are we talking about love? Are we talking about kind of education and intellect that brings us closer together and builds communities that make healthy people? Or are we talking about things that help us have more desires, rape the planet, and separate from each other more through judgment and fear and all kinds of sanctions that make us isolate from one another, because these different systems told us to, and that's how they herd us along. So through this, they have a healthy influx of people all day long. Cha-ching, 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 we're currency. You paying attention to me right now? It's current. It's currency. Is it helping you or hurting you? Am I feeding you bull, or am I telling you to think for yourself? Am I doing anything productive? Is what we need to pay attention to when we're looking at something from now on. So electronic deferment interference. Okay. The consciousness field is equivalent, the knowledge you can get from there sometimes is equivalent to an all-knowing space. It's not the total sum of the creator, or God, for lack of a better word. It's a fraction of it. It's a portion of the field, this consciousness field, that if you tap into, you can hear. You can hear ideas, you can hear feelings, emotions, you can open your mind and shut your own eyes, and you can actually see the different lights. I don't know what kind of visualization some of you may do, or if you can do this, but if you learn, yeah, you can actually see. It can be measured. This is the field, like I said, that they're no longer privy to because they're doing all this other stuff. And if you're not empathetic, you don't have the heart of the planet, because the planet is on a heart frequency. You have to have a matched frequency. So they're trying to emulate, with the electronic interference, the all-knowing, or emulating God, Savior. Kind of like Santa Claus, He sees when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He sees when you're a bad or good, so be good. For goodness sake. God knows all. So does Cyrus, Google, Intel, cell phones, cell towers. AI and transhumanism is on the list, straight up. Desensitize us and have us empathize with AI. Have us feel like it's non-threatening. Chip yourself. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. Go ahead, eat it. It's nothing. Okay, so I was thinking about this desensitization program and how we're like being herded and how it's like Legos fitting together. And I remember watching The Twilight Zone, And movies like the Friday the 13th get you ready, for that desensitization. Like we no longer care about the next guy. Ooh, that looked like it hurt. Hates to be you. Sucks to be you. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Got bills to pay. Got things to do. I ain't you. I'm following the law of attraction, and all these things come to me because they don't have the same deferment problem. They're not leaking because they're having no problem, just like they're a part of the problem. They're not going to be messed with long as they're helping to reinforce that system. They're not going to know what you know, that there's a problem with the field of consciousness and that somebody's tampering with your consciousness. This is going to go deeper. Okay, so we got the Twilight Zone and Friday the 13th, and we're watching this kind of stuff on television. We go from the kiss that we know might have happened in commercial to tongue and hands all up the dress and things coming off and booty in the air before the commercial. Desensitization. And then when they say there's 500 girls missing. Oh yeah? That again, huh? This girl's missing over there too, and over there too. So-and-so was shot. Yeah, that again, huh? Yeah, I heard about so-and-so shot over there, and so-and-so shot over there, and so-and-so shot over there too. Sucks to be you. But the planet has heart consciousness, and these things can be felt. Not by satellites. They can be measured. They can now measure the energetic field coming off of objects, people. Bringing us back to the unconscious mind with this Cyrus thing. You know how the internet is working, where you're talking, you didn't even look it up online. You just talked about it. And all of a sudden you see what you talked about, some toothpaste or, I don't know, some cream or something pop up on your thing. It's listening to you. There's no privacy. There's no privacy. All your secrets, somebody knows them. Trust me. It's in some machine. Somebody's laughing. So it's very important that we get comfortable with ourselves and get real with ourselves, or they'll tear you to shreds on this consciousness field that they're messing with. Which brings me to DMK, sound and noise, silent stalking, technological warfare, okay? Using technology as a means to play God and keep you in check during this time of awakening. So, they're tapping into our dreams, essentially. All the things that we would have imagined, that we would have done outside of the box, that we would have shared with one another is being deferred. It's not happening most of the time. So they're stealing our dreams. That's like, and our consciousness, walking around in a state of illusion while they play with reality, play with themes, and make you believe things that have no business in the human mind. Like sleepwalking. That goal you'll never reach is not reached because of the deferment. That's tampering. And if you don't know, how can you be responsible according to the law of attraction if they're deliberately deferring people away from knowledge? So there's an imbalance that now some of us are here to correct by simply sharing information like this, regardless of whether the majority of the people listening will believe it or not. We're sharing it, and it's being very helpful to some people, as it was helpful to me. Energy for harvest, using logos. Food. Oh, I crave McDonald's. I crave Burger King. I need that Twinkie. Is it the logo or is it the actual taste? Is it the chemicals in it that they manufactured to make you want to come back for the taste? That peak. There's a guy that looks for the peak, looks for the place where people get obsessed with a product, and that's the level of performance for the product. I don't care how many chemicals have to go into it for it to get to that peak. That's why your mouth is tingling when you eat those Oreo cookies. I love Oreo cookies. I'm really trying hard not to eat them. That little Templar symbol on there, man, I go crazy for Oreos. So, is it the logo? Is it the company name? Is it the bells and chimes of the church? And the reminder of prayers in those jingles that are working like anchors, pulling all this stuff up, anchoring us in, making the wheels turn. And is it? Is it the regular scheduled television programming? Possibly. Yep. Like the Waltons. Gosh, they look so freaking perfect. They look so perfect. But they weren't, and that was unrealistic. Okay. So all these things have rules and guidelines. They all have, and that's the way that they siphon the energy. It's important to have these rules and guidelines, whether they're spoken or unspoken, whether they're cardinal or whether they're in red print. You know, there's rules like the judicial system, you know, and that maritime law. Okay, logos for parties and for alcohol to draw you in, you know. There's a theme for that, you know, young, wild, and free. Sex, drugs, money, you know. Blame it on the alcohol. There's logos for a certain kind of energy that pulls in behavior. There's the beats and the music that are current that, you know what I'm saying, steer you. You hear that beat? Sometimes I'll hear certain music and you just can't help it. Like a robot. Care what you do. You could be at the stove, you hear that music. Same thing when I noticed the church bells were going off across town and I could hear them. And after I knew what was going on, it kind of used to tick me off, you know? This emotion would come over me. Okay, so it's an energy harvest. Like I said, the court system, really bad. You know, maritime law, siphoning energy in a big way, you know, but we know this now, thank goodness. You know, the illusion, it's using the illusion, making us perceive that they have the right to impose a penalty on us. And we agree to it due to the social pressures and everyone else following along with the illusion. That's where it's tricky. Tell someone that you don't have to go to court. They'll tell you, you better get up and go to court because you know what they can do. And there's a whole system following along with the illusion and the lie, a whole series of things written up, telling us that we don't have a right to our rights as a human being. So weird. And we have to buy it because part of this illusion that they're not supposed to have rights to tell us what to do, to impose these things that we agree to when we show up. We agree to when we say, okay, I'll take the sentence because I know I messed up, you know, or I'll pay that parking ticket. We agree to, we submit ourselves to. We submit ourselves to their gods. We submit ourselves to their logos, their food, their doctors. We submit ourselves to the teachers. We submit ourselves to the courtrooms. And a lot of times we submitted ourselves without knowing what all that meant. And thank goodness we're at a time when we can change that now. Well, we have to submit ourselves due to the illusion of others around us that will push us into submission because we don't want that fight, because we don't want the consequences. We don't want to pay the penalty for saying no. There's some people fighting that battle, and some of us are fighting other battles, but all from our pivotal point with the information that we learn. We're all making a difference with our own personal fights. It's really awesome. Even you being here with me right now listening. Hence how okay. Now, sound and noise technology and real estate is also another way of deferment. You have the inner city, public housing, projects, and you have rural areas, gated communities, private property, private islands, private beaches, private, well maintenance, well taken care of, well paid for. That's what I wanted to say. Well paid for communities where people are allowed to get peace and quiet. They're allowed to re-energize themselves. Now, that's right, what I wanted to say. I had lost that note. One of the biggest ways, one of the most helpful aids to them in deferring energy is the ley lines, right? And these different buildings and structures also that they built, deliberately built or placed in structures, ways to siphon this energy using the occult systems, using the rituals, using these things. They can suck the energy out like a straw, Bear with 1 second. Okay, so this is another injustice, You got people who go to work every day and do the 9 to 5, don't have time to develop their own consciousness, listening to these people dictate what's right or wrong or good or bad, what's going to help keep the proper flow, a productive flow in society, and they're lying to us. This is obviously not productive. We're at a state of broke, right? And part of the ways that they siphon this energy is by having a place to be able to feed us this stuff. We don't have any property. Many of us in the conscious community that have our own individual, our little personal battles and stuff, don't have the resources that we need to even fight this stuff. You get into trouble and you end up in court, you're just on your own. We don't have big teams and people to help with that. If you get into a problem because of something with your priest, your family or your community, and it happens to be you live in a Bible Belt, you're on your own, because you don't have money maybe to remove yourself from there or close yourself off and protect yourself. You don't have money to learn how to make grids and purchase certain materials or learn the knowledge, pay for the books and stuff to learn the knowledge to build certain structures, to cut out certain energy or enhance your own thoughts, to project your own stuff. That's what's being done. And we're eating it with a smile and a big giant spoon. Notice how there's people running around in beautiful spaces that help you recharge and re-energize with earth shoes on, and they got their shoes off. Got my shoes off. They got the little earth shoes on and their shoes off, and we're wearing sneakers and high heels, stilettos. Why? Somebody told us it was cute, and they forgot to tell us that it was dangerous to our spirit, to our health. That's really funny. And what houses shoes? A building. There's making shoes, there's selling shoes, there's design for shoes. There was the team that put the shoes together. And behind all shoes is a treacherous idea, because not behind all shoes, just sneakers that don't help you connect to the planet, and stilettos that I think are ridiculous, although they do look sexy on some women. But not if you're 400 pounds. Cut it out. Anyway, I like flats. Yeah, so we've been programmed to enjoy sneakers. Now that's sneaky. That was my cheesy joke. We've been programmed to enjoy cheese too. And that's cheesy. And I'm done. And I hope you got a lot out of what I shared. Sometimes you can know things and not be able to put them in the proper format. But I'm haunted by these things when I watch the way that we're just like herded along, and this energy is, they're just, and sometimes you can't help it. Maybe when more of us know about it, we can gather together more and actually build better environments, communities, where we can be around people with like-minded individuals. We're starting to make the things that we need, like this videotape, Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me. This is Reg F. and Howard Raw, keeping it real, Siren Buddha Medicine. Much love to you.